Chapter 5. Advice from a Caterpillar. The caterpillar and Alice look at each other for a long time. They are quiet. Then the caterpillar takes the pipe out of its mouth. It talks to Alice in a slow, sleepy voice. "Who are you?" says the caterpillar. This is not a nice way to start talking. Alice is shy. She says, I I don't know, sir, right now. I don't know who I am. I know who I am when I wake up this morning, but I think I changed many times since then. "What do you mean by that?" says the caterpillar in a strong voice. "Explain yourself." "I can't explain myself, I am afraid, sir," says Alice, "because I'm not myself, you see." "I don't see," says the caterpillar. "I'm sorry, I can say it more clearly," says Alice very politely. "I don't understand it myself. Being many different sizes in a day is very confusing." "It isn't," says the caterpillar. "Well, maybe you don't think so yet," says Alice, "but when you have to become a chrysalis, you will someday, you know. And then after that, a butterfly. I think you'll feel a little strange, won't you?" "Not at all," says the caterpillar. "Well, maybe you'll feel different," says Alice. "All I know is it would feel very strange to me." "You," says the caterpillar in a mean voice. "Who are you?" This brings them back to the start of the talk. Alice feels a little angry at the caterpillar's short answers. She stands up straight and says very seriously, "I think you should tell me who you are first." "Why?" says the caterpillar. This is another hard question. Alice can't think of a good reason. The caterpillar seems to be in a bad mood, so Alice turns away. "Come back," the caterpillar calls her. "I have something important to say." This sounds good. Alice turns and comes back. "Keep your temper," says the caterpillar. "Is that all?" says Alice. She tries not to be angry. "No," says the caterpillar. Alice thinks she should wait. She has nothing else to do. Maybe the caterpillar will say something good. The caterpillar smokes for some minutes without talking. Then it opens its arms, takes the pipe out of its mouth again, and says, "So, you think you're changed, do you?" "I'm afraid I am, sir," says Alice. "I can't remember things like before, and I don't stay the same size for 10 minutes. "Can't remember what things?" says the caterpillar. "Well, I try to say, 'How doth the little busy bee,' but it all comes out different," Alice says in a sad voice. "Repeat, 'You are old, Father William,'" says the caterpillar. Alice puts her hands together and starts. "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white. And yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I fear it might injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back summer suit in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that?" In my youth, said the sage as he shook his grey locks, I kept all my limbs very simple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box, allow me to sell you a couple. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything together than suet. Yet you finish your goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which he gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced anew at the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. That is not right, says the caterpillar. Not quite right, I'm afraid, says Alice quietly. Some of the words are different. It is wrong from start to end, says the caterpillar strongly. Then they are quiet for some minutes. The caterpillar speaks first. What size do you want to be? It asks. Oh, I don't care about size, Alice says quickly. But one doesn't like changing so often, you know. I don't know, says the caterpillar. Alice says nothing. She has never been told she's wrong so much before. She feels she's losing her temper. Are you happy now? Says the caterpillar. Well, I want to be a little bigger, sir, if you don't mind, says Alice. 3 inches is such a bad height to be. It is a very good height, says the caterpillar angrily. It stands up straight as it speaks. It is exactly 3 inches tall. But I am not used to it, says poor Alice in a sad voice. She thinks to herself, I wish these creatures wouldn't get angry so easily. You'll get used to it in time, says the caterpillar. It puts the pipe in its mouth and starts smoking again. This time, Alice waits quietly until the caterpillar chooses to speak again. In a minute or two, the caterpillar takes the pipe out of its mouth and yawns once or twice and shakes itself. Then it gets down off the mushroom and crawls away in the grass. As it goes, it says, one side will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter. One side of what? The other side of what? Alice thinks to herself. Of the mushroom, says the caterpillar, just as if Alice asks out loud. And in another moment, it is gone. Alice looks at the mushroom for a minute, trying to see which are the 2 sides of it. The mushroom is round, so this is very hard. But finally, she reaches her arms around as far as she can go and breaks off a bit of the edge with each hand. And now which is which? She says to herself. She bites a little of the right hand bite to try it. The next moment, she feels a hard hit under her chin. It hits her foot. She is very scared by this sudden change, but she knows she must hurry, as she's getting smaller quickly. So she starts to eat some of the other bite. Her chin is so close to her foot that she can hardly open her mouth. But she does it at last and eats a little bit of the left hand piece. My head is free at last, says Alice happily. But her happiness changes to fear in another moment, when she finds that her shoulders are gone. All she can see when she looks down is a very long neck. It looks like a steam coming out of a sea of green leaves far below her. What is all that green stuff? Says Alice. And where are my shoulders? And oh, my poor hands, why can't I see you? She moves her hands as she speaks, but nothing seems to happen except a little shaking among the faraway green leaves. She can't lift her hands to her head, so she tries to bring her head down to them. She is happy to find that her neck can bend easily in any direction, like a snake. She just makes it into a nice zigzag shape and is about to dive into the leaves, which she now sees are the top of trees she was walking under before. But then she hears a sharp hiss and she pulls back quickly. A big pigeon flies into her face and hits her hard with his wings. Snake! Screams the pigeon. I'm not a snake, says Alice angrily. Leave me alone. Snake, I say again, repeats the pigeon, but in a quiet voice. It adds with a kind of cry. I've tried everything and nothing works for them. I don't know what you're talking about, says Alice. I've tried the roots of trees, and I've tried banks, and I've tried hedges. The pigeon goes on, not listening to her. But those snakes, there's no making them happy. Alice is more and more confused, but she thinks there's no use in saying anything more until the pigeon finishes. As if it wasn't hard enough to hatch the eggs, says the pigeon. But I must watch for snakes all the time. I haven't slept for 3 weeks. I am very sorry you're having trouble, says Alice, who's starting to understand. And just as I take the highest tree in the wood, the pigeon goes on, raising its voice to a scream. And just as I think I'll be free of them at last, they come down from the sky. Ugh, snake! But I'm not a snake, I tell you, says Alice. I'm a. Well, what are you? Says the pigeon. I can see you're trying to think of something. I'm a little girl, says Alice, not very sure as she remembers all the changes she has gone through that day. A likely story indeed, says the pigeon in a very mean voice. I've seen many little girls in my time, but never one with a neck like that. No, no, you are a snake, and there's no use denying it. I suppose you tell me next that you never eat eggs. I do eat eggs, it's true, says Alice, who is a very honest child. But little girls eat eggs just as much as snakes do, you know. I don't believe it, says the pigeon. But if they do, then they're kind of a snake. That's all I can say. This is such a new idea to Alice that she's quiet for a minute or two. This gives the pigeon time to add, "You are looking for eggs, I know that well enough. And what does it matter to me whether you're a little girl or a snake?" "It matters a lot to me," says Alice quickly. "But I'm not looking for eggs, as it happens. And if I was, I wouldn't want yours. I don't like them raw." "Well, go away then," says the pigeon in an angry voice, as it sits down in its nest again. Alice crouches down among the trees as well as she can because her neck keeps getting tangled in the branches. Every now and then, she has to stop and untangle it. After a while, she remembers that she still has the pieces of mushroom in her hands. She starts to work very carefully, eating first one and then the other, and growing sometimes taller and sometimes shorter, until she manages to bring herself back to her usual height. It has been so long since she was anything near the right size that it feels very strange at first. But she gets used to it in a few minutes and starts talking to herself as usual. "Well, half my plan is done now. How confusing all these changes are. I'm never sure what I'm going to be from one minute to another. However, I am back to my right size now. The next thing is to get into that beautiful garden. How can I do that, I wonder?" As she says this, she suddenly comes to an open place with a little house in it, about 4 feet high. "Whoever lives there," thinks Alice, "it won't be good to come to them this size. Why, I would scare them." So she starts eating the right hand bit again, and doesn't go near the house until she has made herself only 9 inches high.